Shut up and sit down. Welcome to the Takeover Tuesday podcast. I'm David Allen, and we're back with another episode, and this week we have entrepreneur Michaela Guzy of ohthepeopleYoumeet.com. She talks about travel, food, and philanthropy, and really it's about the people that she encounters when she travels to these places and their incredible stories. It was more of a casual conversation. We just sort of jumped right into it, and so let's just start.
What about you? You have been traveling for quite a while, judging by what your web pages told me.
Yeah, let's see. I have been in travel for quite a number of years. So I was in publishing. I started in advertising, actually. So I was an assistant art director at DeMassimo. The dot-com bubble burst. I had just moved to New York out of college, had no money. And yeah, as the story goes. And they were like, we can afford you for a month. And I was like, oh my God. So I went out and found another job, and that was at Deutsch. But when I rolled in at Deutsch with my portfolio, the HR person was like, why do you have a portfolio? And I was like, isn't this for an assistant art director job? And they were like, no, it's for an assistant media planner job. And I was like, okay, let's talk media. And I threw my portfolio over my shoulder, and shockingly, they gave me the job, having had no media planning experience.
Nice.
Yes, very interesting. But I was just happy to have a job, and as luck would have it, media paid $4,000 more than art direction. So I was like, oh my God, I am like killing it. Little did I know. And then I'm trying to think. I did that job for like a year and a half. I was working on the Revlon, Almain, Mitchum accounts, which they had just won. We were negotiating a short rate with Condé Nast, and in a very big meeting that involved Donnie Deutsch and Ron Perlman and who else? Donnie Deutsch, and Richard Beckman, Richard the Bulldog Beckman, who ran Condé Nast corporate at the time. In a conversation there, I was the assistant media planner, and so guess who did all of the work and the numbers and everything? So there was like a whole bunch of like, top level arguing going on, and I finally just like raised my hand and was like, actually, blah, 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 and so therefore Condé Nast can't short rate us. And anyway, that made me very popular on like the Deutsch and the Revlon side. Maybe less so on the Condé Nast side, but Richard was like to one of the sales directors, find that girl a job. And so I got a call from one of my sales reps that was like, you have to come in and interview. And I was like, well, I don't want to get into publishing. And she was like, no, like you have to, or I'll lose my job. And I liked this particular sales rep. So I was like, okay, I'll do it for you. And I get there, and they offer me a whopping $15,000 more than I'm making. And I was like, what the? I'm so rich. Pre-tax, $15,000. And so I went over. Yeah, I know, it's all so laughable now. Although I'm self-employed now, and I'm like, $15,000.
I'll take it.
So, yeah, exactly. So I went over, and I was a media manager for Condé Nast. And essentially, I was reverse planning against all the agencies on blue chip accounts. I quickly learned that I didn't want to be there, but that I worked with some like really interesting people, and that actually I thought I wanted to give sales a whirl. And so ended up going over to Town & Country and Town & Country Travel, or Town & Country to help them launch Town & Country Travel and Town & Country Weddings. And that was my first sales job, and I fucking killed it. Like, took the travel category from, a few measly pages to one of the top 3 revenue producing categories for the publications. But that's also where I started to get to travel. So while I always had the travel itch and bug, I was landlocked in Missouri and poor. And so I'll never forget my boss calling me in, my publisher, and just saying like, "Hey, I need you to go on a cruise to the Bahamas for me." And I was like,
You're like, must I?
"Wait." Well, I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, for work." And I'm like, "So let me get this straight. You want to pay me to go on a cruise to the Bahamas?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I mean, fuck yeah, let's go." And that was kind of like the beginning of the proverbial end. I love Town and Country and I loved Hearst as companies. It was one of the hardest decisions I had to make, but Travel and Leisure, which is a much bigger publication, called me for a really big promotion to be the ad director. So it was kind of like a no-brainer. And I oversaw all our international offices. And so I went to Travel and Leisure and I was there for 3.5 years. It was an insanely hard job. And, you know, during that time, it was like '08 and things were tanking. But it was a really, actually, a wonderful learning experience. And I loved the brand. As tough as a company is Amex was, because it was owned by American Express at that time, like I have a lot of respect for that company. And it was different than other publishing jobs because I had to learn how to navigate a financial organization where publishing was a benefit to card members, not like a primary source for a company. And so it was just really interesting. And I did that for 3.5 years. And then I was promoted. To be the vice president at Travel and Leisure, and then was promoted again to be a vice president overseeing our corporate team, which was Travel and Leisure, Departures, Food and Wine, and Executive Travel. And then I was like the travel liaison for Time Inc. before Time Inc. took them over. It was crazy. It was matrix, but it was also a great learning experience. It was a great platform for me within the travel industry. You know, I'm sure I had a lot of internal haters, but I think, you know, my external clients are still some of my clients today. And I'm still asked to speak at conferences and whatnot. And it's about 4 years since I've started my own company. And I think it might be a little bit over. But yeah, I didn't realize I was starting a company when I did with American. I know, funny how that all happens. But when I was leaving American Express, despite it having been like a really, really tough year, I left in February 2012. My team and I had like actually knocked it out of the ballpark from a revenue production standpoint. And we got paid out in February, and you know, I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. Like I had gone through a crazy breakup about a year and a half prior. I knew it was going to be a tough. Whenever you go to a corporate job, it's complicated. But it was also the mergers of two companies that I knew were coming, and it was a made-for-me job. I think in some ways to try to keep me happy and to keep me there. And it just publishing's changing, and things weren't changing fast enough, and I was just like seeing the writing on the wall, and I was like, I don't want to go back to these clients that have established such and sell them an ad buy disguised as an integrated program. It's not. And we just weren't innovating fast enough. And content wasn't speaking to me. And I was like, I want to do video content and I want to do digital content and like beyond just banner ads. I want to do social media campaigns and this was all like not really having been done before and trying to get it done in like one of these big companies where there's lots of it was a nightmare. But I will say the skill set that I took from that and like learning to navigate those waters, I think I gained a lot of people's respects, and it was tough. But I'm glad it's behind me. I'm glad I have the experience. But editorially, none of the brands were like really speaking to me anymore. And that was, I really, when I get down to like why I love to travel, it's the people that I meet that bring the destination to life. And so Hence why I started Oh, the People You Meet. It's travel, food, and philanthropy through the lens of local connection. And Amex asked me not to work for 4 years, gardening leave, or sorry, for 4 months. I wish 4 years, but for 4 months. And
Wish they paid you like 4 years.
right, no, seriously. So I was like, you know what am I gonna do? I can't work. I'm gonna go do what I've always wanted to do and put off for jobs or people, and I'm going to go travel around sub-Saharan Africa. And so I did that for 3.5 months. And I started Oh, the People You Meet as a way to authentically stay in touch with my healthy Rolodex of clients and former colleagues and my family. And I wanted to communicate to them, like, there's all these organizations, and they're not just like a cool place to take a safari, but actually, like, they're employing, like, predominantly their local community, and they're also saving wildlife and, like, at the forefront of conservation initiatives and the environment and sustainable practices. And so I started Oh, the People You Meet. And while I was away, I started a newsletter because I realized I had like 10,000 people in my Rolodex that were all really senior, especially in the travel and publishing space. And so I started sending out this monthly newsletter to remind people to go check out Oh, the People You Meet. And when I got back in June of 2012, I was asked to audition for a TV show. They're like, send us your reel. And I was like, well, I was a vice president at Amex. I don't have a reel. And they're like, well, send us a video. And I'm like, all right. And so I directed, wrote, produced, and hosted a little video about dining out in the West Village. And I interviewed my friend Gabriel Stuhlman, who runs a bunch of great restaurants down there. Throw it up on YouTube, and I sent it to the production company. And the production company is like, oh, thanks. We decided to go a different direction. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And so I just like put the video on my website, and the next thing I know, it's like 2 weeks later, and I start getting all these phone calls from like 70 different people, phone calls, text messages, and like, these people don't go together other than they know me. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so, yeah, long story long, one of them was the former head of communications at Qatar Airways. We had always been really friendly, and she was like, hey, I just saw that you're creating video. And I was like, okay. And she's like, are you creating video? And I'm like, I mean, I guess so. And she's like, great. I want you and your cameraman to get on a plane and come to Doha and cover the Celebrity Chef menu launch with Chef Nobu Ramsey Bhatia and Tom Akins. And I was like, all right. And from there, we went to Peru and to India, and we worked with Tourism Australia, and Tourism Australia ended up winning an award for our work in 2013. We've been to Bhutan, Shanghai, Bangkok, Cuba, like, really all over the place. We went back to Australia in 2015. So it's been a whirlwind. I've just launched my first video on my first Burning Man experience, where we were there as official media. And I try to do more than just destination coverage. Again, it's always about the interesting local people that I meet, but I'm really trying to focus more and more on the transformative powers of travel. And I just did a talk at WeWork on the millennial mindset, and that travel is a lifestyle, community, and transformation. And it's something that millennials seek, experience above all else. So I'm actually working on a white paper on the millennial mindset. So it doesn't mean you have to be a millennial, but it means you think like one. And I am going to be doing a 10-part conversation series with Soho House, covering conversations with people that I've interviewed in the past year or so. So just working on who those people are.
Nice. Well, that's great. That's
Yeah.
a very good start. I mean, now since you have gone to the self-employment aspect with your business, what were some of the challenges? It sounded like your network from past corporate, all the different corporate jobs you just listed and had, was a huge, resource for you once you started to, like you said, you put up that one video. Now you're starting to get calls from people because now we're people, and you send out that newsletter ahead of time so people knew you had the the People You Meet website. So I was going to say you had those corporate Rolodex seemed like a great resource. Once you had the People You Meet website up, you put that your so-called reel, that one video up, and that led to going overseas to for the chef launch. Now, those people were part of your network already, the people that called you up, or did they see it?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a combination thereof, but I get a lot of people who want to travel, who are passionate about travel, and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to quit my job, or I'm going to do what she's going to do. I'm going to be a travel blogger or something. And I think the main point of difference that I'd have to make between myself and travel bloggers is that I didn't fall out of the sky with a passion for travel. I worked in publishing in the travel industry for well over a decade, and I was managing millions and millions of dollars. So I would meet with the CEOs of hotels and airlines and cruise lines and ministers of tourism. Yeah, and I understood their marketing plan, and I understood the way that media was shifting, having been on the other side of it. And I was like, how can I deliver relevant content that I would actually be inspired by, that I would want to consume, experiences I want to have with companies that I love doing business with that I think are amazing, or destinations. And so I was kind of at the perfect intersection of having this really healthy Rolodex of people who love doing business with me, and then following my passion. And I think I have pretty good taste in everything from food and wine, but to great experiences and access to inspiring people and stories. And I've made a lot of compromises too. I used to have a 6-figure salary and the big old apartment in the West Village that was decked out and amazing furniture and artwork, and shopped at all the best places. But I'm a gypsy. I gave up my apartment over 2 years ago. I rent rooms, usually for more extended periods of time, and sometimes I rent them out while I'm not here. I try to live life a little bit more simply, but when I spend money on stuff, I'm spending money on experiences and time with people, or reinvesting in my company. So lots of camera gear and terabytes of storage, but might not be wearing, the latest outfits from Intermix. So, it's been a fun refocus and reshedding, and I feel like I'm growing and changing and evolving every day. And we just onboarded 3 new interns last week, and it's great. And we have a great deputy editor and assistant editor. We have an amazing photo editor. We all do 8 million bazillion different things, and they don't all fit in the same category, but we try to work with each other's strengths and time. And really exciting, actually, a woman who used to manage all of our forecasting at Travel and Leisure, we worked together for a number of years, is coming on to help me. And in a conversation with her, I was like, Steph, I can't afford to pay you what you deserve. And she's like, it's okay. I believe in what you're doing, and I want to help you. And I was like,
Nice.
whoa, that is really powerful, and I might cry.
That's great.
No, it's really humbling, actually, and even the same with my clients, former clients from Amex, that we work with them in a number of different ways. Sometimes, for a good friend, Joanne Kurtzallers, like, she hired me to be an influencer for them for 6 months, and I've done more consulting work for Preferred Hotel Group and JP Morgan Chase and their Ultimate Rewards platform. So it's fun to work with past clients in a consulting capacity or in a social media strategy. Sometimes we do social media takeovers. But in the video realm, I work with Tourism Australia all the time. They're one of the best partners I've had. And they trust me and they help me build the itinerary and they line up the interviews, and then they let me go film my video series and have nothing to say about it. And then I distribute that on my platform. So, the people you meet. But I also, since December 2015, am the expert or editor in chief of sustainable travel for About.com. We have distributed our video series on Yahoo Travel and the Daily Meal. We're a regular contributor of. I've been on Bravo on a 3-part Talking Heads series, which was a lot of fun. And that same production company is bringing me back at the end of the month to film a pilot for Travel Channel. So let's see. Hopefully that gets greenlit. That would be really exciting. But we're always, I'm doing actually a talk on August the 4th in New York City. There's a great organization called the International Luxury Travel Market, who's also been a partner to me since I was at Town and Country back in 2003 and going all the way until now. And obviously our relationship has ebbed and flowed and changed with my career path and as they've grown. But they've been a really, really terrific partner, and I'm so honored and humbled that they're having a workshop called Bright Young Things, where they're bringing millennials in luxury travel, so agents and hoteliers, et cetera, together in New York City for a full day immersive educational talks and workshops. And I'll be moderating and curating that. So, yeah.
Well, it sounds like
all over the place.
Yeah.
But exciting.
It does sound like you've really leveraged your network. Now, are you reaching out to some of these people to work with them, or are most of them coming through past connections or from seeing your, your platform and videos and content you put out on your platform and your social media accounts?
I mean, unfortunately, it's coming from everywhere, right? So there's no resting on your laurels. You have to be out there. I'm still startup mode. I go to a lot of conferences like Virtuoso Travel Week and International Luxury Travel Market. Again, they've been great partners and they always invite me. Even if I'm not speaking, maybe I'm there just as official media and covering some of the experiences, people, and travel partners that I'm meeting there, so I can always stay fresh and current. I do also do social media, and every platform is different. The people on my LinkedIn are very different than my Facebook. My Facebook, actually, I try to keep it as private as possible, me and my 4,000 best friends, but then, I know, it's so ridiculous. But then the people you meet has 60,000 fans on Facebook. So we're always trying to post unique content. I'm just starting Snapchat, which I'm just like, oh my God, another platform, kill me. Pardon me. I love Instagram because I'm a photographer at the end of the day. It's my favorite one. And so I'm growing that. And we're also simultaneously trying to grow all the People You Meet channels and manage our site. And we took over About.com Sustainable Travel. And we've got our e-newsletters. And then I've got my video production. And actually in 2014, I also launched a production company because a lot of partners needed help with like branded storytelling or videos for social media and whatnot. And so that, has really launched us into a new stratosphere where we can go in and we can create our editorial series, but we can also do commercial work. And so I did a self-funded project through Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand back in December and January. And we're just in the post-production process because I'm self-funding it. So it keeps getting pushed back for paid things. But we interviewed a woman by the name of Anna Lynn McCord, who is a millennial celebrity heartthrob. But that's not why I interviewed her. I interviewed her because of her work with an organization helping save children who are victims of sex trafficking in Cambodia. And it's a super powerful story. And those are the stories that they don't have money to tell it. And so part of the reason I work my ass off is to help get stories like that out there. And so even though I'm probably losing money on the whole ordeal, they have a huge fundraiser coming up on June 25th out in LA. And I'm going to be unveiling what I would call a marketing piece for them. And so I'm able to use some of the same content that I'll use in my editorial story because I own that content and create this beautiful piece for them.
Right. Now, you did mention earlier that philanthropy is a huge, part of all the people you meet almost right from the get-go, I trust. Where you had travel, food, people, and philanthropy, and this is one of the projects you're working on. Now, as copywriters, one of the things we always talk about is, of course, it often works a lot better to stir the wound, so to speak, to poke the wound. Now, for people you're trying to raise money to help, like these children who've been the victims of sex trafficking, what sort of ad campaigns and stuff, or this marketing piece, what's it like?
So the organization in this particular instance is called Together One Heart, and she is the chairman, Anna Lynn McWord. And the video piece that I created for them is literally their logo flashes in, and then we took some really powerful sound bites of Anna Lynn speaking about the organization. And one of the things that she says that's very powerful for her, and we can always send you a link to the video as well.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Is that Anna was a victim of sexual abuse as a child herself, and so one of her powerful quotes is that she went to this organization having heard a very powerful speech and thought that she was going to hurrah save the day, but in fact being with those young women who had been rescued from something so awful and ranging from being like 2-year-olds to 18-year-olds, and to seeing these women be saved and have a safe place and a safe house with other women who were victims themselves and giving them psychological care, also educating prostitutes in brothels, but sending these girls ultimately on to get an education. I interviewed 2 of the victims, and they call themselves survivors. And they're young women, they're 18 and 20, and they're actually in the nation's capital getting a college education in psychology and want to go back and help other young women at that organization. And so there's just this, beautiful circle of people who've suffered something that want to go back and help. And I think Anna's quote is so powerful because she's like, instead it saved me. And so she was looking for answers and places and ways to release her anger. And rather than be angry about what happened to her anymore, she realized she could channel her voice and her celebrity for a greater good. And so that was why I was more than happy to help get her message out there, because I was on the ground and I saw it for myself. And I sat with those young women and had the cute little 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds running and jumping in my lap. And actually, for the past 10 years, I've also volunteered with an organization called the New York Center for Children. And so we give free medical and psychological care and safe housing to sexually and physically abused kids in New York City. So it's something that I've kind of always helped out with. And what I can say is it's a topic that's hard to get awareness for, and it's hard to raise funding for, because it's not a sexy topic. It's not save the elephants. It's, you don't have this adorable animal, or not everyone can see or wants to be around something. And a lot of organizations are like, oh, the word sex trafficking, I can't have my brand associated with it. So it's a hard topic. And so, because I guess I like to take the road less traveled, and I'm always a fan of the underdog, I guess that's one of the many reasons I try to help organizations like Together One Heart or the New York Center for Children, or even saving the rhinos, which I do a lot of work on anti-poaching initiatives.
Now, you are, you're on the road a lot, you travel a lot, your business is essentially location independent. What are some of the challenges that you've encountered while moving about? Because I know, like right now today, I'm actually sitting in a Starbucks in Georgia, recording this podcast with you, having arrived here just about a half an hour ago. And so what are some of the challenges you've overcome and faced by moving about the world and trying to run a business and shoot video and all sorts of things like that?
Oh, I mean, I don't even know where to start. There are many. I mean, one is just purely logistics and where do I live? And admittedly, I had an apartment that I would, before Airbnb was a thing, that I would sublet out to friends and friends of friends while I traveled. And then I found myself in a relationship and I found myself nesting, and that relationship actually was not a good one. And yeah, so when that ended and I got rid of the apartment and everything, I was like, I don't want to be committed to anything or anyone. And at that time, I was traveling 9 months a year. And luckily, I had a very good friend. Actually have had several very good friends who are like, I'm traveling, I'm moving in with my boyfriend, take my apartment for these few months, da 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 da. So for the past 2 years, I've been doing that and living there while I'm here and traveling. But I have to say, it is hard, and I'm sick of paying for an overpriced storage unit. I would like to potentially get an apartment again and kind of do what I did before, which is have my stuff, my limited stuff, but have my stuff and my beautiful artwork from around the world, and let friends and friends of friends stay there while I'm on the road. My goal, though, I'm actually having a meeting with a mentor and a friend, one of whom is a VC and the other is a publicist and two brand strategist. Because I'm doing so many things and so many diverse things under the umbrella of my company, I think it's confusing. People are like, I don't even know how to use you because you do so many things. And so I think I need to simplify the message. It's not that I need to actually stop doing any of the things that I'm doing. I just need to kind of repackage and categorize.
No, known for exactly what you do. Well, you can do the rest. We encounter this a lot when we talk to business clients, especially people that are not as familiar perhaps with, advertising and so forth. And often they're trying to do, a lot of, like you said, you do a lot of things, but people are trying to sell every aspect to every person.
Right.
And
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work very well. In fact, when I talk to potential clients, one of the examples I always bring up is in Metairie, Louisiana, which is just outside of New Orleans. After a movie one day, a bunch of my friends and I went to this breakfast, quote unquote, breakfast place. And in the breakfast place, they did serve breakfast, but they also had a casino attached, and they served daiquiris and pizza. And I think there was
so they're real health nuts, huh?
And it was like everything. Anybody that walked in there was like everything that anybody that walked in there, but it was by the same token nothing. Because none of it was good, and they didn't do anything particularly well. They just had a plethora of things to throw at you when you walked in the door, and that's typically what people do. They're worried about niching down too far or something, and they think it's going to cost them potential customers, but really, you find the right people to work with instead of trying to work with everybody.
Right, exactly. And to actually go back to other challenges, I would say some of the other challenges that I encounter, and also some solutions, not having truly had a landing pad of my own, but still trying to run a company. I've found organizations like WeWork and Soho House very much adapt to my lifestyle, so I can ebb and flow. Maybe I need multiple desks one month, and maybe I need one, or maybe I don't, but I just need a mailing address or somewhere just to leave my camera locked. Um, but places where I can have meetings with really senior people, whether they're in publishing or travel or the social goods space. And so those are two companies that have a lot of flexibility, that understand entrepreneurs and people who travel a lot. And they have locations in so many places across the globe that's part of the reason that I choose to be a WeWork and Soho House member. Yeah, if someone ever figures out like storage and iCloud space and makes it more affordable, that would make my life so much better. I have all these drives and Dropbox and we all need multiple copies of the videos and the photos. By the way, it takes up a lot of
It
space.
does.
Uh,
Now, how do you now when you're traveling? Do you have now it has I still have some old school drives from about 5 years ago that are pretty big. That are kind of cumbersome to take around. I mean, they don't fit in my pocket exactly, but they're getting smaller and smaller, of course, as technology improves. But are you taking like massive amounts of the data storage with you when you everywhere you go and stuff?
No. I keep my video content housed with my video editor, um, and then when we travel, we'll bring like multiple hard drives with us, but like traveling size. So 2 terabytes. You pick up an extra one on the road, and then we dump. And actually, I just brought on a video editor to support who's our primary video editor in South Africa. So we just loaded up a couple terabytes of data and sent it over to him to edit a few videos. And we just brought on an intern from my college, Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama.
Shout out to Spring Hill
Shout
College.
out, right? Exactly, go
I just
Badgers.
drove
We
through
were
there.
the original Badgers, Wisconsin people. Um, but yeah, like he's great. He's just walked actually, and so he's working 110 hours and learning not only how to edit video, but also the post-production process. It's not just editing, but it's like, okay, what do you do with the video once it's there? How do you tag? How do you build YouTube and Vimeo audiences, etc.? So
Yeah, I do a little work in that regard for a friend of mine actually who does a weekly. I hesitate to call it a podcast too because it contains video as well. So I don't know. It's like a mishmash of audio and video. Uh, but yeah, and I've done a lot of the editing for that because he just doesn't. He's not technologically savvy. But so I know some of those challenges about uploading stuff and sharing stuff because right now we're apart, and so he has to upload stuff that then I can edit, and then we have to get it out by a certain day and so forth. So there's lots of challenges when you're on the road, and it sounds like you've found
oh
a lot,
yes.
a lot of good ways to overcome them, as have I.
Yeah, I do a lot of work in Africa and places that Bhutan, totally off the grid. AT&T doesn't even work there. Um, so yeah, I've kind of had like every challenge known to man. So you can't rely on being able to even access your Dropbox, let alone like upload heavy amounts of content. And like we have logistics, travel things. We're in some really remote parts of the world with really expensive equipment. We're usually way too small of a team for whatever I've decided we're going to be filming.
Right.
I always like to push the limits. But I don't know, I was born of two of the hardest working Midwestern parents that like, if you got a 97 on a test, they'd be like, what happened? And you were like, are you kidding me? Like, it's an A plus. And they'd be like, yeah, but
You
we
missed
know
three.
that you're capable
Of so much
of
improvement.
100%. And I'm like, oh, God. And so like how that's translated into life is that like I know not only when I'm doing my best and like what I'm capable of, and I like to test that limit every day, but I can see when someone's not giving me their all. Um, and I feel like people don't really feel as good about themselves or the work they're doing if they know that they're capable of more. And so I really try to empower the people that I work with to give it their all, and I push people really hard in constructive way as possible. Um, to quote one of my former sales directors from American Express, and he said to me, God, you're hard, but you're fair. And he was like, you couldn't actually fight you because what you were saying was actually totally right. And I hated disappointing you. It was like the same as like disappointing my mom. And I was like, oh. So yeah.
That's awesome.
What can you do about that one? But and I have to say, from a personal note, when you're traveling 9 months a year and it's sporadic, it's not like, oh, I'm going to be here. It's like, oh my God, I just found out that I'm not going to Turkey anymore and I have to fly to St. Louis, and that's all happening tomorrow. Um, so my life is very unpredictable, and so from a personal point of view, it's very hard to maintain a relationship or start one.
No, I have the same I have the same problems, and I'm really relate on that front. I just came back from spending 6 months in New Orleans, which is where I like to spend the winter because it's warm enough to street perform.
Right.
And a friend of mine was going to Chicago, so I gave him a lift to Nashville. He took a bus to Chicago. I spent 10 days in Nashville for CMA Festival, which was interesting. Love Nashville. But yeah, you're constantly on the move. I have friends in all the different cities I've been to now, but yeah, in terms of, you're basically, unless I've always sort of thought to myself, admitting this for the first time live in a recording perhaps, that I need to find somebody who's like a flight attendant or somebody who's on a traveling with a band or somebody who has their own stuff going on where they're traveling constantly too, so then we can meet in different destinations. And it's because you basically confined yourself to a long distance relationship. Basically, I mean, if you choose to continue to do what you do, like I intend to.
I was gonna say I've kind of been on every side of it in the corporate world. I was in an 8-year relationship, um, but he hated how much I traveled, and I mean, ultimately, it wasn't like the right relationship, but we just wanted different things, and I realized travel was always going to be a part of my life, and so I was like, you know what, he deserves to have someone that's more grounded in like what he needs, because that's just not me. And so that was a moment of like, wow, I'm breaking up with my best friend, but like because I care about him, like, got to do it. And then I've had kind of the flip reverse where I had the guy that lived in Europe and we would meet all over the world and it was super exciting. And then I woke up one day and I was like on a yacht in the Mediterranean drinking champagne.
It sounds terrible.
And I was like, I'm just a girl from Missouri. This doesn't make any sense to me. And so I literally like got on a plane and went home to New York. I was like, I don't know what I've been thinking for the past 10 months. It's been fun, but like, no. Yeah. And then I did date someone seriously, and I thought, oh, I found the guy who wants to travel the world with me. This is fantastic. The challenge was he wasn't able to like keep up with his consulting and the work that he was doing in order to stick with me, and so it all ended very disastrously. But I'm hoping that there is like that perfect person out there that loves to travel, that does it on their own. We can meet up different places, but have like a little grounding launch pad wherever that may be. That's what I'm holding out for.
Yeah.
I've given up on online dating.
No,
I
yeah.
can't. I find it soul sucking.
It is. That's a good way to put it. It is soul sucking. I met up with somebody recently in Nashville. through online dating, and I was caught in the middle of the date where I was just like, I just don't want to do this. This is just not,
Mm-mm.
and I agree. I think I'm of the same mind as you are. I'd like to find somebody because one of the things for me is, of course, intelligence and people who can carry their end of the conversation. They're sarcastic, they're witty, and so forth. That's huge for me. And if they're beauty is nice. Love to have that too, but that's not what keeps me going. Keeps me interested. There's got to be more depth there and stuff. So when it's hard because you don't get to know people quite so well. But when you're traveling a lot, but I'm holding out hope. I think just like you, that there's somebody out there who has their own stuff going on, has their own, maybe their own company as well, and understands from a theoretical and logistical thing that what this is. So many people, it's so foreign. You tell them what you do, and it's like, and you travel. Like I've traveled nonstop now for 3 years, which is the longest time I spend is usually in New Orleans during the winter time.
Right.
And I'll meet people there, and have things, sort of a person there for a while and so forth. But they know you're leaving and stuff, so you're never that involved. If there was a person who was traveling themselves and had their own stuff going on, because usually it's somebody local there who's not coming with you, and they're not traveling. They got their own sort of quote unquote normal life. So, yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I think there's somebody out there who's probably gets it somewhere.
Inshallah, as they say in the Middle East.
Inshallah.
It will happen.
Yeah, and somebody who's doing exciting things on their own too. So you sort of bring that to the relationship, so that they're not
Absolutely.
looking for fulfillment from your adventures,
Totally.
Now,
Totally.
we had another guest on our show here. It's already out, so I'm not sure how. Probably a couple months ago now. Andrea Smith, who's a fitness professional who travels and has created her own online fitness coaching business and so forth. And she was a professional bikini model. Now she spends half the year with her fiance in South Africa, and her fiance's mother, I believe it is, does a lot of philanthropy work. Outside into, I can't remember what they call it. Sort of districts outside of
the townships.
Yeah, townships.
Like Cape Town.
Townships.
Okay. Sure.
And they're launching something too, because they do a lot of philanthropy work. And she was telling me on the podcast that we recorded some of her experiences going in there and how such basic needs and stuff being met are, they're so excited by that. And that's one thing traveling has taught me too. I've met, especially street performing, because I've met a lot of people, a lot of homeless people, a lot of people who are just in all sorts of aspects of life that I wouldn't have met otherwise, back when I had more normal jobs, if you will. Traditional jobs. So I think it really opens you up to a whole new world, judging by what you've experienced too. You with your philanthropy, of course, you're trying to help people who can't help themselves oftentimes, and I think that's very commendable.
Thank you. When I think about like what am I capable of doing, it's amplifying the message, and it could be a person's story, or it could be a bigger problem like lion conservation, and I give stories that might not otherwise be covered, or people a platform and a voice to do so. So, and it can be tricky, and it doesn't pay well. But I do other work and, really bootstrap in different places and take on other projects that are still within like all of my moral alignments. But, I do some of the commercial work, because I'm creative and I like doing it, but, because it allows me the opportunity to tell the stories that I want to tell.
Awesome. Now, if people want to get a hold of you, Michaela, how do they get a hold of you? What's your website, and what's the best way to get in contact with you if they want to maybe hire you for a project, or they got something to talk about, or they got a cause maybe that you might be interested in?
Sure. I'm on every social channel. um, Personally, I'm on every social channel as Michaela Guzy, and it's just my name. All the way to LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. My website is Oh the People You Meet. And we also run sustainable travel for about.com. If you want to shoot me an email, you can, and that's Michaela at ohthepeopleYouMeet.com. And yeah, I'm on literally
Everything.
online on everything,
All the time.
seemingly all the time. But I also like to think that we create really awesome and inspiring and compelling content. And, The People You Meet right now has over 60 contributors across the globe. And we're always growing that number. And about.com, we have about 30 contributors. So I'm also always looking for more inspiring stories to cover and people, but also if there's a writer or someone that's looking for a platform to tell a story of someone they've met doing something awesome, we're happy to talk to them too.
Cool. Now, if there is, I've begun asking this question on the air or sort of as part of the recording or off the air is not, and I've tried it a few different ways. It's sort of a mixed bag of results because I tend to put people on the spot with this question. But if there was one other person that you think we should talk to, that I should interview for this podcast that has a compelling story, something that needs to be heard, or just something, crazy or off the wall, that would make for informative, lots of takeaways for our audience. Who would that person be?
Give me some frame of reference because I fall in love with people each and every single day.
Okay.
Um,
So somebody else who's maybe has a self-directed life like you, maybe has left, like you said before, more traditional jobs, works for themselves now. Could be someone who travels. Just someone who has a compelling story of usually of entrepreneurship, because that's primarily our audience. We have new and sort of a newish copywriters as well as business owners. People are not necessarily copywriters, but they have their own business or they're solopreneurs, and people who want to travel.
okay. So I would actually, instead of just rambling off a bunch of names to you, what I'll do instead is I'll point you in the right direction of a couple videos. So, I have a website called Oh the People You Meet because I'm absolutely fascinated with people. I think my little byline on Instagram is that I'm a collector of experiences and amazing people. And I stand by that. Believe it or not, my Burning Man video, I went out there. It was my first time. So, my video, while I'm really excited that it's been well received by the Burning Man community, I didn't create my Burning Man video for someone who goes to Burning Man. I created the video because I, at one point, had some negative interpretations of it without having been. And then I kept meeting more and more interesting people, and I'm like, but I like these people, and I think they're highly successful and inspiring and interesting. So if I like these people and they go to Burning Man, kind of seems like I might like Burning Man.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. And so I submitted a treatment cold turkey to Burning Man's website, and shockingly, they accepted it. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm doing this. What the fuck am I doing? Oh my God. And so the next thing I knew, last summer, I found myself out on the dusty desert playa, and I met. It was overwhelming, the people that I met. And I stayed at this really awesome camp called Ideate, who were totally cool with me running around and filming and doing what I needed to do. And they're super supportive. And it kind of makes sense with the ethos of what they do, because they're definitely a part of like the SF tech crowd. However, they're all entrepreneurs and they are all extremely successful and like running amazing companies. A lot of them are change makers and very dedicated to the topics of sustainability. So as it does with Burning Man, I just kind of landed in their laps and they really helped me out. And so I'm actually looking to go back this year and not have to be creating a whole production, but to actually be there and give back to the camp that helped me create something. And, I hope it works out because I met people that started TEDx Asia and, who are running TEDx Youth Austin and just people from all over the place that were geographically diverse, that were just super, super inspiring, who were change makers and like really creating something super amazing outside of this crazy, chaotic week of creativity exploding from all corners of the desert. I didn't know what to expect, but I was delightfully surprised. Um, but all I can say is it's something that I think everyone should try once in their lifetime.
Right. Yeah, I had someone tell me to go to Burning Man just the other day, actually. It's like, you should go, you belong at Burning Man or something, she said. I was like, okay. I've had some friends go. I actually had a mentor go last year, and he had some interesting things to say about it too. But he enjoyed it. So it's something I probably will partake in at some point.
Yeah, look, it's all what you manifest. You want to go see drugs, sex, and rock and roll, you're gonna find it.
Right.
But if you want to like go meet some interesting change makers that are out like saving the planet and go hear a TED talk and do yoga at sunrise and like meet artists who are creating these insane installations, um, you can do that too. And so what I tried to encapsulate is, the people that I met at Burning Man, and they were really, really amazing. And that was what I set off with the intention, to manifest amazing people. And I was floored in the best of ways by the people I met there. The other two videos, I mean, hopefully you want to watch all of the videos, but there are a couple where if you're actually looking for people to interview, I would say look at the Burning Man video, but also watch on the the People You Meet travel video drop down tab. We have something called the People You Meet, and it's actually an extended interview format. So just interesting people. They're each a couple minutes long, but it'll give you a poo-poo platter. I kind of created a sizzle. One's called Content with a Purpose, How to Help Spread the Word. And that's somewhere where we interview Anna Lynn McCord, the celebrity ambassador, and a number of different people, including Miss Amy Kleinhans, who was the first Miss Colored South Africa, who refused to carry South Africa's flag during the Miss Universe competition in protest of apartheid. Uh, yeah, she is pretty powerful. She's gorgeous and she is smart and strong and like so inspiring. And so I've actually interviewed her twice. She's interviewed again in my the People You Meet sneak peek of South Africa. I just spent 5 weeks over there in April. And not only has Amy done that and become friends with Mr. Nelson Mandela and really become a spokesperson for people. Apartheid's only 20 years old, really become a spokesperson in a positive impact, not promoting violence and really promoting education. She's a philanthropist and an entrepreneur through and through. But now she's partnered with a gentleman by the name of Kolani. And
I'm glad you
I know.
pronounced that.
Yeah, well, let's see how bad it is, but I tried. A for effort, right?
That's right.
And so Kalani is an ex-ANC guerrilla that was exiled from Africa to Australia, the good old convict colony. And they took him in for over 20 years. When he was invited back by Nelson Mandela, he came back as a nuclear physicist and has gone on to run some major organizations and operations. And now owns a beautiful wine farm with Amy Kleinhans in Swellendam, which is a smaller wine producing region outside of Cape Town. And he is
Wow.
like, his story is crazy.
I'm impressed already.
It is crazy. Um, and it's also so nuts that like all these things happened like in our lifetime and whatever. I was a pretty young kid, so I heard of things, but I didn't really quite know them. And to just sit in their presence, I was like, what the wow. And now they're creating like gorgeous wines and a cute little B&B. But what I love is, Amy, here she is, this talented beauty queen that represents so much more for her country. Like, everybody knows who she is, and she is so humble and gracious. And but she's saucy. She's saucy.
Nice.
And it's a little bit of a surprise, but I got her to tell me on camera. Um, but I believe in 2017 she's about to launch her first bubbles, so like a prosecco-y champagne. Though you can't call it champagne because it's not in the Champagne region, but she's launching her own bubbles, and in a very snarky but funny way, it's going to be named AK-47.
Nice.
Her initials are
Nice.
AK as well, but I was just
I
like,
love it.
oh my God, I love it.
I know some friends right now, they're going to be all over that.
Yeah, I mean, but it also, like, if you think like the political
Yeah.
story behind it, and then it happens to be her initials, that like it just, I don't know,
All come together.
yeah, it's irreverent in the
Yeah.
very best of ways. And if someone's allowed to be irreverent, I'm like, I think the two of you can. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
so I'm a full supporter, and I will speak for their other wines. They're delicious, and it's a great place to go visit. And if sometimes I don't promote this often, but because I create so much content, I get calls all the time of people like, oh, I want to have that experience. I want to meet that person. And I was like, how do I make my content bookable? And I've been doing some test runs in different destinations, and South Africa is one of them. So I have a partner down in Cape Town that helps me bring experiences to life. And one of the things that we do is bring them out to either Amy and Kulani's farm, or Amy and her husband, who is an amazing man, also have a home in Franschhoek, and sometimes we'll set up lunches and whatnot to meet them. Yeah, it's pretty inspiring, and they're fun people to hang out with, but just to hear her tell her story is like, what? So,
Super
uh,
cool.
yeah, so I mean, those are just a couple of the videos that are on there, and they're kind of like larger synopsis pieces, but we'll hopefully give you access to some pretty interesting and powerful people.
That is great. That's I will definitely be checking those out. And those are sounds like some amazing stories. That's
Well,
fun.
and
I'm
Oh, the
blown away.
People You Meet is really a collective for creating content. And so we really are not only looking for people to read and interact with our content, but we're always looking for people to contribute as well. So um, open forum to share inspiring stories.
Well, that's awesome. That is so that's ohthepeopleYoumeet.com. And Michaela Guzy, I really want to thank you for being on the show. It's been amazing. The hours just flown by. Uh, for those people who are listening to this when it eventually comes out, Michaela's got a lot of content. So go check it out. I have watched some of the Burning Man videos already myself. And you're smart and funny, and she has a very funny email story that I will not spoil. If you go to ohthepeopleYoumeet.com and look into her backstory, you will have a good laugh because there's a great email story there. Michaela, thank
I will tell you that email to this day. It happened in 2009. To this day, I get emails from people telling me their own traumatizing story. So
I don't doubt it. Well,
it's
thank
something.
it is something. I encourage everyone listening to go read it. So thank you very much for coming on the show. I hope our paths cross on the road.
Same. Thank you so much for having me. Let me know if you're ever through New York.
I will absolutely, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. And of course, for everybody who listens to this, we like to thank Ben Sound at bensound.com for the intro and outro music, royalty-free music at bensound.com. So check him out as well, and we'll be back with another exciting guest, hopefully as entertaining as Michaela next week.